Welcome back to Web Development with AngularJS and Bootstrap. In the last section, we introduced AngularJS, Bootstrap, and a basic example of AngularJS and Bootstrap working together. In this section, we'll dive straight into getting input from the user. In this video, we'll get to understand what Bootstrap and AngularJS bring to the table for the input element. We'll also learn how to add inputs to our page with Bootstrap styling and AngularJS data integration. Finally, we'll look at how data is being manipulated and stored by AngularJS. First, let's have a look at what AngularJS brings to the table for the input element. As we can see in the docs, the new attributes defined by Angular will allow us to respond to the user interacting with the input. If you look down the menu on the left, we can also see there is documentation for many other input modules, or as AngularJS, and we will refer to them from now on, directives. For now, we'll focus on the text, password, and email types. As you can see, there is a directive for email, and for the text and password, we will use the standard input. You can look at the examples on your own, but for now, we won't be using any of the specifics of the other input types. If we move back to our code page, we'll add in the 3 fields, but first, we'll style up the page to make the form a bit more conspicuous. First, let's replace what we had in our last lessons, Hello World HTML, with a new form element and add a well class. This is a Bootstrap class that allows us to easily mark a part of the page as being separate from the rest, as you can see here. Also, just to make it a bit easier to see, we'll switch over to our script page and bump the form down a bit so it isn't aligned with the top of the browser window. Now that we have a good spot to put our form inputs, let's start adding them. First, let's quickly reference our Bootstrap documentation on the classes they defined for this. For our case, this is a good enough start, so we'll just copy over their content to get us going. And we'll tab it up so it lines up. Now let's bind up some data variables and show their output. First, we'll add the scope variables. In this case, we'll create an object called data to hold all the form values. We script over to our script and we'll change this line to. Now we'll add the bindings back over in the HTML page. Note that we are going to be binding onto a key of the data object, so in this case we do not need to define it beforehand. First, to demonstrate this, we'll add a data output below the form, like so. As you can see, it's shown up over here. And then we'll add the ng models to the email field and the password field like this. Right, now we'll type into the fields to see that the object has the key and value automatically added when the data is entered. This will come in handy when trying to validate the data later. Now we have our basic form inputs set up. In the next video, we'll start having a look at letting the user know when their input data isn't correct.